Welcome to this program on BCAT called Conversation With. This is when we go in depth with one guest, and the topic today is Kitsap County Auditor Walt Washington. Welcome.
Thank you.
So you're the topic and also the auditor's office, because we're going to talk a little bit about Walt and learn about what the auditor's office does in Kitsap County. Walt has lived in Kitsap since 1999 with his wife Mary in Paulsbo. Walt worked for King County Elections?
No, recording.
Recording. So he had a little bit of a background in this. He was appointed as our Kitsap County Auditor in 2007.
That's correct.
Upon the resignation of our former auditor, Karen Flynn.
Yes.
Walt ran for the office and was elected in 2008. So technically your term began in 2009.
Yes.
You have 2 years under your belt as officially elected county auditor.
Yes.
And Walt has a lot of duties in that office, but Walt is also very involved in the community. He's involved in United Way of Kitsap County, extremely involved in United Way, and also Habitat for Humanity.
Correct.
He's a Rotarian in Paulsbo.
Correct.
And just an all-around pretty awesome dude.
Well,
easy to talk to. He's very, very committed, of course, to our community. So let's get right into it and talk about the auditor's office. My first question is, Walt, why do we elect a county auditor?
it's part of statute where there's a separation of powers. The commissioners are the legislative, executive part of government for the county, and the other separate electeds have specific duties assigned by statute to balance the powers between the commissioners and the electeds.
Whereas if the auditor had been an appointed position, and if at any time you fell out of favor,
You could be gone.
you'd be gone.
Yes.
This way, the citizens vote you in, and separate yet equal to commissioners? Not equal.
Not because they control my budget.
Yeah.
That makes us a little bit less.
They control your budget, but you work for the citizens.
That's correct.
As does our county treasurer, our county assessor, and our sheriff.
And the coroner and the clerk.
And the coroner and the clerk, that's
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
whole nother thing. The coroners, well, that's not today's
Yeah.
subject. So let's talk a little bit about, let's start with the many aspects of the duties of the auditor. Walt is in charge, of course, elections and voter registration. Recording, meaning recording all documents that are of importance.
Anything that has to be held in perpetuity and all real property transactions.
Recorded in your office.
Yes.
And also then he has a licensing duties and also financial services. So
That's
pretty
correct.
huge. Walt, how many folks work in the auditor's office?
I think we've got 27 full-time now. And like I said, there's those four distinct, unlike any other elected official, my office has four distinct and separate duties under the auspices of the auditor's office. None of them are associated with each other. So there is that.
Separate.
Yeah.
Totally separate. However, when you go into the county admin building, you go to the auditor's division, which is as soon as you go into the building on to your left.
Correct.
All of those folks are right there, though. They're
Yes.
housed
Except
close by.
Yeah, they're all in the same. In the old days, we had part in Givens and part in the old courthouse. So
Yeah.
we're all together for the
It's
first
nice
time.
to be all together.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
very, very important. So let's start off with some election information and voter registration. The voter registration pamphlet that comes to folks' home, as well as being online, is created through Walt's office.
Correct.
And all election information, as well as tabulation and everything election related,
Everything that has to do with elections is through all the city, all the junior taxing districts, school districts. They all go through my office for election.
So let's talk a little bit about last fall's election. I understand in my reading here that we had a pretty good turnout. 55% voted in last fall. That was November 2011. And we all are aware that the mayoral race in the city of Port Orchard was extremely tight.
Yes.
It ended up being what,
5 votes.
5 votes. Talk us through the process of how that election, after the election, what was the process that finally determined who the winner was?
Well, it was a hand recount because by statute, if the number or the percentage difference between the person that's ahead and the person that's second, it becomes a hand recount. So we had to actually count every ballot by hand, and it came out exactly like we did on election night, or at least after the certification.
After the certification.
Yes.
So when the hand recount happens, anybody can watch? People can come in and actually not oversee, but actually watch the
We
process?
actually encourage folks to come.
Sure.
Because there's always questions about or doubts about the election process. So we make sure that there's observers, or we actually ask the political parties to send observers. We ask the public to come and observe. We actually want them to see that there's an integrity about the elections process that is totally open. So we encourage that.
And the results of the election came out exactly how
Yes.
the certified election.
Correct.
Wow.
5 votes,
5 votes.
which lets you know how important one vote is. And we preach that all the time.
Absolutely. We can't say that enough.
Yes, it's very important.
Get your information and vote. I mean, look at the difference it made.
And we
Just-
take strides in trying to make sure that whole process is transparent, where if there's information about anybody, the candidates, all the candidates have an opportunity to come to BCAT, for example,
exactly.
and do their
Video.
videos for that, so people can actually see them and hear their voices, and it's a whole lot different than stump speeches in certain neighborhoods as opposed to being open to everybody, and we enjoy that.
What's happening with elections and voter registration at this point? Do you see a lot more folks?
Well,
Getting registered?
I think one of the bills that's in the legislature is one that has to do with election day registration. There is a bill that's asking up until 5 o'clock on election day that we register people to vote.
Oh,
And the Auditors Association came out against that bill. Simply
that's-
because it changes the dynamic of not only the results, but also the integrity of the election, where we have to verify that those voters are actually good voters and that they're eligible to vote. And then we have to do provisional ballots. And when you do provisional ballots, it's something that you manually produce. And there's an opportunity for a lot more work on the backside.
Sure.
And the whole context of elections changes. So we're a little bit nervous about that bill.
Yeah, and where's that? It's currently in the legislature?
It's in the legislature.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was down testifying against it a couple weeks ago, but I don't know what the status is now, whether it came out of committee or not. I don't know.
Yeah, that seems like it would just very last minute, very
Yes.
cumbersome.
But it's happening. It's happening in other states. But what's important, though, is we are a vote-by-mail state, and we have all kinds of opportunity in Washington State for people to actually register, online registration, motor voter, where they can go into DMV, and when they get their driver's license, they can register to vote. So the opportunity is a whole lot different than other states, where they have poll site voting, and all those things can be curtailed and controlled. But it's important for us to verify those every signature and every person to be eligible to vote in the district or the precinct where they're eligible to vote. So that kind of thing, if it doesn't happen on the front side in that 21 days before the election, it has to happen on the back side, which means the results will be delayed.
Yeah. So you mentioned our state is mandatory mail-in ballots?
Every county, with the addition of Pierce County, which was the last one to come to all-mail voting. Yes, we're total 39 counties are all-mail.
So that means voting sites are not open other than to drop off your ballot. You can't physically vote anymore?
No, we have vote centers.
Okay.
One in Paulsboro, one in Bainbridge, one in Bremerton. and one in Silverdale, so that people can actually go in and physically vote. We have electronic voting where they can use the electronic machine to vote if they don't want to vote a ballot. So there's opportunity. And we've just put in last year at the general election, we put in a drive-through drop box at the Paulsbo Fire Station. And we're looking at a couple of other locations, one in Bremerton, at Norm Dick Center. We're talking to the city of Bremerton about that.
Oh,
and
great.
Bainbridge Island, so that
Great.
folks can actually drive through and drop
Right.
off their ballots. Because there's some folks still haven't gotten used to putting it in the mail, so they want to have a place to drop it off. So we're
They
trying
want somebody
trying
to
to meet them.
physically,
Yeah,
hand it
trying
off.
to meet them halfway.
So I have a question. If I have voted in a mail-in election and I forgot to sign my ballot, or it wasn't sealed right, or something is awry, does your office actually contact myself? You would call, or
There are
someone
two
in your...
contacts. There's a letter that goes out, and if you don't respond to the letter in a number of days, then we actually physically call you to see what's up. Sometimes the signatures don't match, and what folks don't know is why I say we invite them to come and see the process. We look at every signature to ensure that whoever signed it is the person that should sign it, and if that doesn't happen, they get a little letter from our office and saying you need to come and cure that, i.e. you have to come and do another voter registration
Right.
form to update your signature, or you have to make sure that it's you.
How are things looking for the election in 2012? We'll be electing a president. Things are just going to be just busy on the national. So how does it look for your office come fall?
Presidential elections are always more turnout, more activity, but we bring in extra help during those elections to make sure that we have enough staff on hand. We invested in a ballot sorting machine a couple years ago, and that actually scans the ballot, scans the signature, and then puts it into an electronic file so we can actually look at each signature compared to your signature. That's what the barcode is all about.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we're there.
Yeah, lots to do, and we still have yet a few more things to talk about, but we're going to take a break and come back and talk to Walt a little bit more about recording aspects and licensing, and also the financial services aspect. So you can tune in or check out the website for the county auditor, and that is www.kitsapgov.com/AUD.
Correct.
That's just it. It'll be on your screen. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more with Walt Washington. We're back to conversation with, and joining me today is Walt Washington, our county auditor. We talked a lot about voter registration and actually elections in our county, and how Walt's office handles that, as well as the election last fall of the mayor in Port Orchard. Very, very tight. So let's talk a little bit about the other duties Walt has. Let's start with recording. Tell us a little bit about what the auditor's responsibilities are.
Well, the auditor's responsible for maintaining all records in perpetuity that have to do with the commissioner minutes, real property transactions, marriages, and anything that you, the public, would want to have us keep. Some of the veterans bring in their DD-214s and record those so that they have, if they're lost, the originals are lost, we can reproduce those. So it's a big responsibility.
Huge. And when you say into perpetuity, forever and ever.
We have
so
records back to the 1800s.
Yeah, they must be on microfilm, microfiche.
We actually have access to them. We've actually put them in electronic format. We've done a transition and scanned those documents in. So we do have those in electronic format.
Wow.
Microfiche is a little bit older technology.
Well, it tells you I'm not in that field. How about licensing? So you do lots of different licensing, and
Yes.
you have some little satellite offices.
Yes.
Tell us about
well,
that.
we're the agent for the State Department of Licensing. So we do all the vehicle vessel licenses, mobile homes in our office, and we have a subcontract with now we've got 5 sub-agents in the county. When the county closed on Fridays, there was a need in the south end where the county courthouse is, because we were the licensing agent in the south end, and we just opened a new agency in October, the 3rd of October, in the south end. So
Good.
we have a new sub-agent there.
Good. Because the whole building, the admin building, is closed on Fridays.
That's correct.
For the county. Yeah. And so how about financial services? Those are huge because that's paying the bills for the county,
Correct.
collecting on income for the county. Tell us about that aspect.
Well, the financial services department does payroll, accounts payable for the county, and we're actually working towards automating that process so that if vendors have a contract with the county, instead of cutting a check, we're trying to do electronic deposits, and also when they send invoices, instead of sending us a hard copy invoice, we're trying to get those into an electronic. They send them to us electronically, electronic signatures. That we're working towards that. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting close.
How about the payroll piece? Is the county on automatic or electronic payroll system?
Yes,
Everybody can.
Everybody. Well, there are
input
some holdouts that want to check. But most everybody, I'd say 98% of all payroll is automatic deposit. Yeah. There are some holdouts.
There's some
and I won't
holdouts.
call them out publicly.
People want to hold it. People want to touch it.
Touch
They-
a check. Yeah. Yeah.
Just put it in my bank.
I know.
You
I
know,
know.
I can.
And it
make
actually
sure it's
goes
there.
in the night before, as opposed to getting a hard copy check the day of payday. Yeah.
Well, you talked to us a little bit about in the election segment about some things happening at the state level. What else is happening for auditors statewide?
We have, every year, the Auditors Association, which is all 39 counties, the auditors and the treasurers have an association, the clerks have an association, but we're part of the Washington Association of Counties. And our separate association for the auditors, we put forth usually 2 priority bills, which we take and have somebody sponsor those bills. And I've been fortunate enough to have a real close relationship with Sherry Appleton, and she has been tremendous in helping the association get bills at least primed so that we can at least get started with the conversation with the legislators from all the other counties that represent the other counties. So that's good.
And do you have, are you an officer in that association? Are you going to be the?
I'm the vice president until June, and then I'll be president of the association after June. So it's close.
You
It's
have a
close.
lot of stuff going on. You have a lot of stuff. So let's talk about social media and some the newsletter that you're sending out to folks called Beyond the Books. And maybe you've seen this on either the county's website, or if Walt's your buddy, he sends it to you electronically. How's that working for you? How's the reception been?
Beyond the Books and this whole social media thing, one of the things that I thought was I need to educate the public, because oftentimes what people hear or what I was reading in the blogs was not necessarily how my office ran and what our responsibilities are. And people, I've always said that it doesn't have to be the truth and it doesn't have to be accurate, but if it resonates with one person, then it takes on this whole life with social
Absolutely.
media. And so we decided with a conscious effort to go into social media and make sure that the word that went out was factual based upon what the auditor's office was doing. And so Beyond the Books was my first attempt at a newsletter, and we were excited about it because we got a great response.
Good.
And what we've done is ask for folks to at least subscribe, and then they would get it automatically. There are some folks, we started a couple years ago with an ability for folks to give comments. We put the comments cards on the counters. We've got nothing but positive comments, and they have an opportunity to put their email addresses on there so they can receive information from us. So social media has taken a new life, and we've been excited about it.
Yeah.
Positive stuff.
So how do you handle that, Walt? Is one person in the office in each division have responsibility, or is it one person for the auditor's office?
Well, it usually comes down to me my chief deputy, my administrator, and we've got one person that actually does the body of work. And Sean is a new employee that came on last year, and he is a dream. He came from the State Department of Transportation with a lot of experience, and he has been a real find for us.
And I bet he's a younger fellow.
He's bald like me though.
But those young people,
he's
they
young.
want it,
Yeah,
you
he's
know, they
young.
want it digitally. They don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to read it. And
Yeah.
like Walt and I were talking off camera, it sure is nice to talk to somebody, you know.
Yeah.
Send me an email and you're 2 offices down. Why
I
don't you
know,
just come in
I
and
know.
ask me?
And I'm old school. I like to talk to people face to face. Yeah. And I do my daily walkabout with staff. And they just
Nice.
love that. If I don't come by, it's like, well, Walt, you didn't come by. And then, well, you're too busy, you know. So I have to live up to that expectation.
Let's talk a little bit about the graphic you're going to see on your screen and property tax and how they're distributed in Kitsap County. Walt, why don't you talk us through this?
One of the things that the public doesn't often see is where their tax dollars go, especially when it comes to real property tax. There's a 1% tax increase every year for real property tax, and so folks are concerned about what the government or what the county is doing with their money. And me being a general fund department, I just wanted to share that of that whole dollar,
Right.
that you know, only 10% comes to the general
To
fund.
the general fund.
Yes, so it's a small amount of the money that you pay taxes for. And I think the public needs to know that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good education piece, very nice graphic, and that is courtesy of the County Assessor's Office. So Walt, what's on the forecast? What else are we looking at? How about customer service? And you guys are very good at that. How's that all working out?
We have an annual retreat, and with all of my staff, and it's usually on the Friday that we're closed. We bring folks in for 2 hours, 3 hours, and we talk about where do we go from here. And out of those meetings, we've come to redesign our mission statement and our goals. And I've always been one for that. You know, customer service was it. I started in banking, and of course, banks, you know, you can give everything that other banks give, but the best thing you can give is customer service. And then I think about government, and we're not like Safeway or Albertsons, I always say. You know, people come to you because you're the only game in town.
You are it.
So when they come in, they should get what it is they came for in an expeditious way, in a courteous way, and in a serving way. So that's my goal.
Awesome. Very awesome. I would think you're a pretty nice guy to work for.
Sometimes.
Very caring.
Sometimes.
Very committed to public service, which
Yes,
which we all think is important.
I always say that there's a difference between being a public servant and a politician. And I consider myself a public servant because politicians do everything they can to get reelected, and a public servant will risk being unelected to do the right thing.
Do the right thing.
Yeah.
Walt, thank you so much for, number one, your service to our community in county government, and also your work with United Way and Habitat and Rotary. You are just an exemplary person. And
Thanks for having me.
I call you
appreciate
a friend,
that.
and that's
Yeah.
extremely important.
I
to me.
appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Thanks for joining us on Conversation With, and we enjoyed having Walt Washington with us today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.